Let's talk about it. You don't have to be smart. I'm going to talk about 3 different points. You don't have to be terribly smart to understand this, right? And let me say this. Regardless of what you think personally about Maazi Nnamdi Kanụ's guilt or lack thereof, right? Let's analyze legally. I want you guys to Google the meaning of extraordinary rendition and what extraordinary rendition is all about. If you Google it and you're truthful to yourself, you will know that Maazi Nnamdi Kanụ never had a case to answer at all. Google extraordinary rendition, read about it. Implicit bias and other biases do exist in Nigeria against the Igbo man. And the perpetrators of these biases are many non-Igbos and even Igbos alike. They have some self-hating Igbos that are helping to promulgate this. Some self-hating Igbos that are pushing and burning this flame of biases against the average Igbo man. When Omoyole Sowore talked about it, I mean, he had talked about it a few times. Each time he would talk about it, people would just start saying rubbish. You're not Igbo. You're defending Igbo, this and that. Especially since after the Civil War, that state of war still exists. And that's why a lot of the Igbos are still suffering. And now Maazi Nnamdi Kanụ is the latest victim of that bias and those other biases against the average Igbo man. You must not stand. No, mbano. Origba mmapa ahụ, nne ekwekwala. Ndị Oweresi nne ekwekwala. Nne ekwela. Oremma. Yes, so one might ask, why do they have so many opinions on this Maazi Nnamdi Kanụ trial and conviction and sentencing? Why do they have some people not even understanding or not even speaking the truth about what happened? It's because of implicit bias. Biases do exist in that Nigeria against the Igbo man. Everybody knows this, but we keep playing games around it. And you know what's crazy about it? That same bias against the Igbo man is being perpetrated even in the highest of levels. Even the elites, the most educated of Nigerians, have these biases against the average Igbo man. So, because of these implicit biases against the Igbo man in Nigeria, some people will see the truth and they will not tell the truth. They will just come up with different opinions that are totally away from the truth. Now, even some lawyers intentionally mislead the people. They intentionally misstate the truth just so it will not benefit the so-called Igbo man. And you know, Maazi Nnamdi Kanụ is a poster child. He's seen as a poster child of the Igbo nation, right? Now, let's talk about it. You don't have to be smart. I'm going to talk about 3 different points. You don't have to be terribly smart to understand this, right? And let me say this. Regardless of what you think personally about Maazi Nnamdi Kanụ's guilt or lack thereof, right? Let's analyze legally. I want you guys to Google the meaning of extraordinary rendition and what extraordinary rendition is all about. If you Google it and you're truthful to yourself, you will know that Maazi Nnamdi Kanụ never had a case to answer at all. Google extraordinary rendition, read about it. If someone is extraordinarily renditioned, case don't close, that case don't end. United Nations even made it clear that Kanụ had no case to answer. Even Nigeria's Court of Appeal discharged and acquitted him, especially based on those premises and others, of course, but majorly because this is extraordinary rendition. There was no way. Nigerian government refused to release Kanụ, even when their own court had said discharged and acquitted. They waited 8 days before going to their Supreme Court to cook up a different thing. And even they did not even respect what the Supreme Court said. The Supreme Court just said go back to the lower court to work things out. Even at that, the Supreme Court is wrong. But even what they asked the lower court to do is not what they did eventually. Now you're charging, now extraordinary rendition done. Let's talk about, you're charging this man with crimes that are not written, not known to mankind. If it's not written, then it's not known to mankind. Only back in the day, the British people used to have a codified system that they didn't write. It's in their heads. That's ibiribidus. That's not right. Every law that any statute you're charging, if you're charging someone for a crime, it has to be statutory. It has to be written down. Now, the law under which Maazi Nnamdi Kanụ was charged earlier had been repealed. 2013 law, repealed. But they still continued on it. That's why Kanụ kept asking them, show me the law. People think it's a joke. Show him the law. There's no law to show him. You know, and because of your implicit biases against the average Igbo man, and by extension against Maazi Nnamdi Kanụ, right? You will now find it difficult. Some people are even saying, why is he's in a court of law and still asking them to show him the law? That he's in a court of law and still asking, show me the law. You see, that's why it's difficult to change the Nigerian society, because the people are not serious. Some of these people talking like this are PhD holders, but because of these implicit biases and others against the Igbo man, they cease to reason. And let me tell you, these biases are not even limited to other people that are not Igbo. They have Igbo people exhibiting implicit biases and other biases against themselves, against their own tribe. Self-hate. There are a lot of self-hating Igbo politicians and Igbo elites. They are one of the problems. In fact, there are even bigger problems than other tribes in Nigeria. The self-hating perpetrators of these implicit biases against the Igbo nation, those ones that are Igbos themselves, are even worse than the others that are not Igbo. So now you're charging him with a crime and he's asking you, show me the law. You don't want to show him the law, Abi? Because there's no law. If you want to charge him under the new act, you can do that. But even at that, the United Nations don't talk him. Court of Appeals don't talk him. You cannot charge him. You messed up when you extraordinarily renditioned him. All Nigeria needed to do was go to court in Kenya and tell them that they caught this guy and they want to bring him back to Nigeria. Then the process will take place. If the court, under international supervision, now says you can take him to Nigeria, then there will be no extraordinary rendition. That will be normal proceeding for what they call regular extradition, right? And no shaking. But they messed up their cases. And now it's also a case that has capital punishment possibility. You're supposed to have a lawyer regardless. Even when Nnamdi Kanụ said he didn't need a lawyer, they're supposed to still ensure that a court-appointed lawyer represented his interest. At least they didn't do that. That's another buggle. The Court of Appeal will just throw that one away immediately if they are reasoning, unless they are going to be bribed by other people. Some people say make sure say Wike doesn't anywhere near the judges. And here's some Wike. They say Naim be the controller of the judges in Nigeria. Some people are very funny. Regardless of what you think about Kanụ, before you can convict someone based on words of their mouth, right? You have to have a link between what they said to an actual event and the place where the thing happened, right? So jurisdiction issue was tossed away. I mean, they didn't even attend it at all. He broadcasted allegedly from outside Nigeria, and then the effect of whatever he broadcasted, according to them, was in Nigeria. So if the resultant location is Nigeria, then you have to find a way to marry the electromagnetic pronouncement that turned into sound wave. No, the sound wave that became electromagnetic, and then the electromagnetic now that became sound wave again in Nigeria, and it now hit someone's tympanum, right? It hit someone's ears, and those ears will tell the brain, say, this is what the instruction is, let's do it. Then they can't carry gun. They can't buy somebody based on waiting the man yarn. You have to establish this. You have to establish that after Kanụ yarn that and one guy just grab machete or gun, go chase down one police officer, buy him. And that person go come testify, say, buy this person based on waiting Kanụ yarn. You have to marry this. So forget about your biases. There has to be connection. It's not enough to just say somebody talk something, everybody begin buy. So now everybody will buy for Nigeria. Since that time, we cannot talk that it's on Kanụ. Everybody is on him. Even the ones who there for not, not him. So let's sing. You see, you don't have to hate. They make you know the reason again. Think smart. Think. The case was never proven. The case was never proven. And some of you guys coming to talk about, say, Kanụ for use lawyer, na lie. With that, in use 1 billion cents, the same case, the same evidence, the same outcome for be the outcome. So the best thing that he did was letting those lawyers go. The lawyers will have their own respect still. Nobody say they enter case die in their hand and all that. And also, for appeals courts, Kanụ can now use it as an excuse, say no use lawyer. You understand? And that can even help his appeal. That's one. And also, is for the whole world to see. People, they say his temperament, he was disrespectful. Now lie. If now you, they hold for 10 years, chasing you around for persecution or persecution with no just cause, you are a prisoner of conscience. You're a conscious soldier. You go vex more. I cannot not even vex as someone like me for vex. I'm telling you, he was calm and he was articulate. And I think when they vexed them because of his articulation, he was able to deliver against waiting they know. He was able to deliver the truth, and the truth hurts. That's why they're upset at him. He was just So when you don't like Igbos or when you don't like Kanụ, then you use that as an excuse. Just the way he was yelling, what has that got to do? Does it mean when someone yells they should get a life sentence? Are you mad? Do you really want Africa to get better? So because someone yelled, they should get life sentence, or because you believe that the person don't form ESN, therefore you should. So a person away from ESN must get life sentence and lie. You must prove it legally. And again, ask yourself, why was ESN formed in the first place? Not holding briefs for them, but why was ESN formed? Many years ago, our mothers couldn't go to the bushes in Nigeria. Nobody was farming. It was just like Plateau, and it was becoming like Plateau and Benue State. ESN was formed to curb that. Then what happened? The government infiltrated ESN in an effort to advance their counter-terrorism methods and efforts. They infiltrated the ESN, and the unknown government was formed. People were getting paid extrajudicially by the state. That's state action undercover. Now he spoiled that ESN. So many of these things, some people they say, na Kanụ people do that, all those, na state counterintelligence matter. That's what spoiled all that stuff. Make we know the reason. ESN saved the day back then. Fulani killer militia, Mietiala, they were killing people indiscriminately. The killer headsmen were killing people. We are too quick to forget. Make we know the reason well. I beg, I don't want to talk too much on this one, all right? But let's be legally sound. Don't let your biases affect what you say or what you think. We're going to talk more on this. Some people will say Kanụ was inciting violence. Okay, if he was inciting violence in your opinion, then charge him for inciting violence. Do not charge him for terrorism when you cannot prove it. Do not convict him and do not sentence him to life when you cannot prove it. If you really believe he was inciting, there are laws for that. Charge him for those. And you might prove him. You might prove it that he was inciting. But don't judge based on that. We must have people to speak out and up on our behalves. Because say Kanụ no get people to talk for him, no means say he must be allowed to be messed up or pied or put in life imprisonment. Ndị owereshi, ega na ikwoshi anwanja enwe amu nana ya nwanyi ya. Mba no. Because wanja, as small as wanja, that means say amu yakwa nwahode. You're not going to, because of that, take away 1 year. You're not going to, because say somebody small or in prick small, you can't collect a wife. We must speak for the weak. People will not get person to speak to for them. We must speak for them. You understand? Injustice to one is injustice to all. Rise up. Fracas more fire, fuka fuka. Now we there.
We4We Media Pinnacle Entertainment. Derima. More fire. Fuka fuka fuka.